Welcome to the Warning Track Power Hour. I am Dr. Andrew Scaff. He is Dr. Michael Werman, Esquire. On today's show, we'll be talking about the upcoming Super Bowl featuring the Kansas City Chiefs and the San Francisco 49ers. We'll recap last week's our extended preview of the Pro Bowl games, which I'm sure we both spent a ton of time watching, not just previewing.
Yeah, it's the most thorough preparation of any podcast you can find regarding the Pro Bowl. We had the deepest dive into the Pro Bowl games of any minor sports broadcast.
Absolutely.
Podcast, yeah.
We'll also talk about the recent Royals major signing of the last week. And then we'll be giving our Super Bowl preview and Super Bowl picks that we have, our giant extravaganza of betting that we tend to do every year, sometimes more successful than others.
Yeah.
But we'll kick off today's show with the most interesting stories from the build up to the Super Bowl, Mike. Which story stands out to you most and is, like, captivates your pulls in your interest the most in this last couple of days before Super Bowl 58? Anything in particular?
Well, for a while it was, will Taylor Swift make it or not? That was
Yes.
possibly it. But it seems like everybody sort of thinks that she will make it now, so it's not quite as much of a cliffhanger.
Yeah.
But really, I guess it's just, I think, well, can the Chiefs win their second in a row and be the first team to repeat as Super Bowl champions since the Patriots did it 20 years ago? And I think it's just general, I guess, maybe storylines like that. The injuries are concerning that the Chiefs have. It seems like the 49ers are healthier, or a little bit healthier at least, than, nobody's completely healthy at this time of year. It seems like
Right.
maybe Trent Williams has been a little bit dinged up, so that could be a big problem if he is. For the 49ers, he's by far their best lineman. The Chiefs have Joe Tooney out. They have, on the defensive side, Derek Nottie has been out for a while. Charles Omenihu out. So
Injured in the AFC Championship game. Yes.
torn ACL. He's probably out for most of next year as well, because of that usually takes about almost a year to heal. So he might be out for a lot of next season. But yeah, it's maybe the injury stories and just the general, what does it mean, kind of legacy stories if the Chiefs win back to back. Or maybe if you're approaching from the 49er side, what if Brock Purdy becomes a Super Bowl winner from the lowliest, not quite the lowliest point possible, because you can be an undrafted pick, just like Kurt Warner was, for example. I'm not sure if there have been any other undrafted free agents that became Super Bowl champion starting quarterbacks. Do you know? Your head?
Not that I know of. Yeah, I'm not sure. Or, I mean, there was a time before the draft, I believe, but I don't know if anybody became like a Super Bowl MVP at least anyway.
Well, they've had the draft for a very long time. So, like, Len Dawson was drafted by the Pittsburgh Steelers, I believe, or the Browns. He played briefly for the Browns, and then maybe he played for the Steelers for a longer time. So, like, they've had the draft for a long time. A lot of those AFL guys that were former NFL castoffs. Then the AFL, of course, had its own draft, but in the early days of the Super Bowl. But
Kurt Warner is the only undrafted quarterback to win a Super Bowl.
Yeah, well, it's easier now to be undrafted because there used to be.
Yeah.
At least when we were kids, there were 12 rounds. There may have been even more at one point, and then it went down to 8, and then it went down to 7 rounds. I kind of wish there were more rounds, but I guess having fewer rounds allows undrafted free agents to have more of a choice of where they want to end up. And maybe teams don't like having that many draft picks to deal with, but everybody invites a lot of teams anyway. I guess maybe also it's not as fun to watch the draft once you get to rounds 8 through 12. Maybe even Mel Kiper can't follow all those picks.
Right.
But anyway, we'll talk about storylines or interesting angles. What have you found the most compelling in this lead up to the Super Bowl? These 2 weeks. Do you like the 2 weeks? Do you think there should be 2 weeks, or do you like having like a regular interval, like a 1 week interval?
I like the 2 weeks. I think it's you, the theory is like you end up with having like your team a little bit healthier than it would be if you're playing every week and then there's no time in between. So there's a little chance for recovery. Maybe a few players that wouldn't have made it back will be available for the game if you get that extra week. I like having the extra week in there. I don't really care that the Pro Bowl's in between there, which we'll talk about here in a little while. But it's
Because they used to have the Pro Bowl after the Super Bowl. It was the week after.
yeah, I mean, it makes sense to have some football in the week between, just because it's like it keeps people's minds on it and thinking about like the game. It's more of like an advertisement for the Super Bowl then that way too. But yeah, I think I like the extra week. Is that do you prefer the extra week, or do you think they should get right into it?
I like the extra week too, actually. I think it allows it allows more time for hype, I guess, but it also I think it allows for a game that's maybe it's seen as a little bit makes the game seem a little different from just a conference playoff game
Yeah,
that because it's held in a different city, at least almost always from where the teams are from. It's a neutral site. It's a bigger kind of to do, and I think maybe giving 2 weeks, you don't want to do any more than that, but I think 2 weeks is good. Maybe the idea might be, well, they should play the game on a Saturday rather than on Sunday. uh
yeah,
simply,
that'd be more considerate, I think.
yeah, because the games seem to run later and later, especially on the East Coast where it starts at 6:30 or so, and it probably won't end until close to 10:30, 11 sometimes.
Think of the children NFL. I mean,
Yeah, because
there are
my daughter,
bedtimes.
yeah. So my daughter Marie, who is 7, loves Patrick Mahomes and loves the Chiefs. She will only be able to watch the first half before she has to go to bed.
Dude,
So
that just seems so mean.
yeah, but on Saturday maybe she could stay up because it's just Saturday.
Doesn't have school on Sunday.
Doesn't have school. Or
Sunday.
some people think that maybe they should declare Monday a national holiday. Uh, well, if I guess they could move it back and play it on President's Day weekend, and then some people at least would have Monday off.
Anyway, yeah.
Not that many people would have Monday off, but some people, like if you
No.
worked for the post office, or like me, if you worked for the
No.
state of Maryland, you would have that day off. But
Now, federal employees would have the day off, right? So,
federal employees and
yeah.
most
Many state employees
a
also.
lot of state employees and things like. But I think the Saturday would be the easiest fix.
So just
Just
one day short of 2 weeks from the
mhm.
AFC NFC championship games. Yeah, that makes
Yeah,
sense.
I don't think most people would think, oh, my Saturday night's ruined. I was going to go out, but now I've got to watch this football game
Oh,
instead. But no, I think the game on Saturday would be a slight improvement because it's still alliterative. You have Super Bowl Sunday, Super Bowl Saturday. It's the same, but maybe they say, well,
yes.
NFL traditionally plays their games on Sunday. The Super Bowl should also be on Sunday. I don't know. Maybe it's also could be for most observant Christians no longer really care whether football is played on Sunday or not. But maybe if observant Jews would maybe not watch a game played on. Well, it's Saturday night. That's the end of the Sabbath because it'd be Friday night through Saturday. So the Saturday night, if it was late enough, at
Yeah,
least on the East Coast, it would be after sundown.
right.
Uh, so it would no longer be Shabbos. So uh, kind of like Walter from Big Lebowski does not
Right.
rule on Shabbos.
Yes.
Other people would not turn on their TVs and watch football on on Shabbos.
possible.
I can't think of any like big Jewish stars of the NFL that wouldn't play. Like there's no Sandy Koufaxes or people like that would. And I don't know how many. I don't know how many people would follow that. Anyway, there are big football. There's college football games on Saturday nights and stuff like that. And the Chiefs and the NFL plays playoff games on Saturday nights already. So I don't know what. But maybe this one's different than the Super Bowl. But that's a big digression. But I do think Saturday would be a better day, especially for kids who could watch the whole game rather than be forced to go to bed.
Right.
So I remember that was a problem. I think when I was a kid too, I wouldn't always stay up for the whole Super Bowl.
Yeah. Well, I remember having to go to bed before the end of Game 7 of the '85 World Series. But the Royals had a huge lead, so it was not really much of a game, I guess. But still,
it's not fair. School's the problem. I think we should start school later.
Well, so since the Chiefs have been in several of these recent Super Bowls, Mike, do you feel the same amount of like anxiety leading up to this game, or now that they've been there enough, or are you like fully relaxed and not worried about the game at all? You just are confident the team's going to win, not nervous going into
it. I'm a little bit less nervous maybe than I would be than when the Chiefs were in Super Bowl 54 the first time against the 49ers. I was more nervous for that game. I was less nervous for the Tampa Bay game, which turned out to be a disaster. Right. I was a little bit more nervous again for the Eagles. And I'm a little less nervous than last year, but I'm a little bit nervous. And then when I'm watching the game, it becomes nerve-wracking. I was a little less nervous during the playoffs, I thought, going in as well, because the Chiefs, especially, they hadn't played very well this year. Their team wasn't doing so well, and it looked like they probably wouldn't make the Super Bowl. But now that they're in it, you think, oh, you never know if you're going to be back in the Super Bowl, even with Mahomes. It might not, I think, even Tom Brady went, he went 10 years between his third and fourth Super Bowl victory. So once he was in a couple when they lost to the Giants a couple of times, but he's ever, it was very possible. It seemed like that, he wasn't going to win another one. The Patriots might not win another one for a while. It ended up not happening, but they had two separate kind of 3 Super Bowl winning runs. But even this is 40 years ago now, but people thought that Dan Marino would be in the Super Bowl, just about every year. When he got to the Super Bowl and they lost to the 49ers, and that was, I think, Super Bowl 19. So that's, was it 38 years ago. So, and he never made it back after that. So you never know. So I guess when you're in the Super Bowl, you should enjoy it. I was a little bit, maybe you become a little bit aware that the Chiefs maybe are not the lovable team anymore. Maybe they're the villains to a lot of people. I don't know. Have you embraced the? I guess you don't see that in Kansas City much.
No.
But do you think the Chiefs are the villains now? Are they the new Patriots? The team that nobody really wants to see or nobody wants to win?
I think they're right up against it. I think they're right on the edge. I think if they end up winning this one, they will become more of that team that people start to dislike, I think, or just have become tired of seeing win. I don't think it's quite there yet, but it's getting very close.
For kids love the Chiefs. From my small straw poll, Marie's class at school in Western Maryland, she says 6 kids are really big Chiefs fans.
Oh,
out of her class of 15 in her first grade class at Bishop.
Wow, well, that's good.
Yeah, that was her count. So some of the kids maybe it's just because they're in the Super Bowl and that's who you root for. But I think some of the people like the Steelers or the Ravens. But she says
the very local teams there.
Yeah, those are the local teams. But the Chiefs are the most popular, I guess, because Patrick Mahomes is very popular, and she wants partly wants the Chiefs because I like the Chiefs, but also she's really she likes Taylor Swift and she loves Patrick Mahomes and Andy Reid she likes. So there's a lot of colorful characters on the Chiefs, I think,
Yeah,
that lead kids to like they're in a lot of commercials and stuff. So they're I think
yeah,
if they're not like the kids' first team, they're kind of the kids a lot of kids' second team. I think they're
yeah.
not quite as jaded as older fans
I think
growing.
the players themselves seem to be pretty wholesome
Yeah.
as a in general, at least. Anyway. I don't know if you saw all the different clips from Rasheed Rice in the last week were pretty great. Like him
Yeah.
leaving his neighborhood. There's like all the neighborhood kids had signs out and were cheering his name, and he drove by and you could see him like recording them.
Mhm.
He was leaving, so he could remember that. I was like, oh,
Yeah.
that was really pretty classy. And then
Yeah.
somebody had shown Rasheed Rice the video of Andy Reid's punt pass kick competition,
I think I saw that one. Yeah.
and he's like didn't believe it and was laughing at the clip like everyone else has also probably.
Andy Reid's a
So
giant among those kids. I think those kids were actually in younger age divisions, but it's still he was a hulking figure above everybody else, and
right,
it looked like he was wearing like he was like it looked like he was a Rams player among
right.
those kids.
But he was I think 13 I think in the clip, and yeah,
Yeah, it's funny how he was a big guy always.
right,
You were always tall. You weren't as uh
tall compared to the people in the class, but not
yeah, but you weren't as
kids
big as Andy.
years older than me though, right? Yeah,
Yeah,
so
you weren't hefty like Andy Reid. You were just rather tall. But like yeah, so that would have been like you out there. But if you had, we're even a little burlier,
yeah, of course.
stouter, huskier than that. Yeah, like against yeah, it's a funny image. But yeah, so I think the Chiefs have a lot of this color. I think Pacheco has a fun, interesting story, and he's fun to watch on the field. The Chiefs are a fun team. I think a lot. You can kind of say that about most teams. They have fun guys. Like the
Yeah,
49ers are interesting, entertaining. Brock Purdy's a good story. Kittle's kind of a character. Uh,
absolutely.
um, stuff like that. So there's Kyle Juszczyk's wife who makes the jackets for Brittany Mahomes and
And Taylor Swift.
Taylor Swift. Yeah.
Did
Uh,
you see the NFL granted her a license to actually use the NFL materials too? So she before
ooh.
was kind of doing it without a license and
they didn't
was
they didn't sue
risking
her, huh? They didn't.
lawsuits. But
They're pretty
the
litigious now.
NFL actually I think did the right thing and granted a license to her so that she can actually make these things and profit
Yeah,
off them too, and not just
that
show
would
them.
have been funny if they had come after her, kind of, but
Seemed like
it
that
would
was
have been
like the
awful.
most
But
likely outcome. And it's like this is
yeah.
gonna get real ugly fast.
Kristen Juszczyk is like being sued for millions of dollars. And then maybe Taylor Swift, but they could also bring in maybe the people that bought the merchandise, knowing that it was counterfeit, could also and promoting it.
Well, I don't know that we know that anyone actually bought those. It could have just been that you gave them to them, which actually is okay, I think, to some
Yeah,
extent. But if you end up profiting off of it down the road, it's
yeah,
still like, maybe they could go after her. But now that she's being granted the license and all of that risk is gone, I think for her. So,
yeah,
which is
yeah,
really good because some of those things are really cool. I'd
yeah,
be disappointed to see those things go away. I think they look very creative. So.
yeah. It was a lot. I think there's a lot of fun stuff. Storylines. I guess you have the rematch from 4 years ago. This is probably not the matchup that America wanted to see out of the four possibilities of the playoffs. I think people wanted the Lions, especially, and I
I don't know. That they're like a regional team though. They're not a national team.
I think people wanted them I don't think they're a national team, but I think because they hadn't won it in so long, they've never been to the Super Bowl.
Yeah.
I think there's sympathy for them. Like
Yeah, I think people will be okay with it. I don't think they crave it though.
oh yeah. Yeah, the 49ers and the Chiefs are two of the marquee teams in the league.
Absolutely. The league should be overjoyed that those are the two teams in the Super Bowl because it's maybe two of the most popular teams.
Yeah.
for quite some time though, too, not just this year.
Yeah, the 49ers are this kind of blue blood team that since Joe Montana, uh, especially, and yeah, now the Chiefs are the hot team probably worldwide. I think Bob Costas called the Chiefs America's team now instead of the Dallas Cowboys, but
Right.
maybe the only bigger matchup could have been the Chiefs and Cowboys or Chiefs Packers. I'm trying to think of the possible playoff teams
Yeah.
that were in the NFC.
I think in general you also want teams from different time zones, which we have. So like
Yeah,
the more spread out the teams are, I think the better it is for like TV viewership, stuff like that. I mean, the Super Bowl is the biggest event of the year for TV anyway, so
mhm.
probably doesn't matter who the two teams are. Like it's
No, even when like the Giants and
yeah.
Patriots, which are pretty close together, those were still big games. But like,
Yeah.
yeah, it doesn't.
But
Maybe
like
if
more people care about it when it's a little spread out. It's not like a
maybe,
regional matchup that you can get anytime.
maybe Rams Chargers wouldn't be as exciting for uh
Yes. Teams you
teams.
don't even have to leave the building that
Yeah,
they play in to face each other. Yes.
yeah, something like that. But or an all Florida matchup, maybe.
Yeah.
Well, anything involving the Jaguars or the Titans, like some of the least popular teams.
Right.
Because the Southeast, it's college football, it's more popular than the NFL teams.
Yeah.
So like, yeah, Jacksonville, Atlanta, maybe a Jacksonville, Atlanta Super Bowl. So especially since Bill Belichick did not become the coach of the Atlanta Falcons next year. If he had been the coach of the Falcons, that would have been a big deal. If it happened, I don't know why I'm predicting those two teams, but I was trying to think of a matchup that was regional and not exciting according to maybe NFL um, standards, but
Right. What did you make of the discussion about the softness of the 49ers practice field at UNLV?
oh yeah, that was a big deal, I guess.
Is it actually a big deal or is it nothing? It's
Maybe
been talked about a
nothing.
lot though.
There was talked about a lot. I don't know if it really matters that the field is soft. I guess maybe it could lead to injuries, but it's they're going to play on grass in the dome. I think as the stadium in Vegas, as the field is better than it was last year in Phoenix, I think everything will be fine. But um, yeah, it seems like maybe it was attempted to be kind of a built-in excuse in case the 49ers didn't do very well. Say, well, our field here at UNLV is soft. Did you also see there were 49ers speaking up that said the Chiefs were holding a lot in the Super Bowl 4 years ago, and maybe trying to work the referees ahead of time. So it's the same. It's actually the same referee, Bill Vinovich, as it was in the matchup Super Bowl 54. So um, same referee, same teams, maybe the same outcome. Let's hope it's the same outcome. If it is the same outcome, I would rather have the outcome, maybe the score be the same, but not the way it happened be the same, because the Chiefs were
Right.
down, and
Way behind.
I would like a comfortable victory if the Chiefs win,
Yeah.
uh, rather than a nail biter. But it probably will be a nail biter.
It's looking like it would be, I guess. I don't know, but the Chiefs have played the best that they probably have all season in the last 3 weeks.
Yeah, and the
Yeah.
49ers have been kind of shaky the last several weeks,
Yeah.
especially in the playoffs. They were down both times at halftime and had to fight their claw the way back. So, but this is what happened with the Chiefs' first Super Bowl, their playoff run. They were down to both the Texans and the Titans, and then we're also down against the 49ers and then won. But in the first two games, I guess they were just down at the beginning, and by halftime they were ahead again. In the 49ers and case against Green Bay and against Detroit, they were down at the half and had to come back in the second half. So
Yeah.
yeah.
I guess this is the fourth time that teams have met twice in 5-year spans. Do you know what the outcome is of these Super Bowl rematches?
Let's see.
Previous 3 times.
So I would guess it's the Patriots, Giants. The
Oh,
Giants
I
won.
mean, like, did the team? What happened the second meeting of the two teams? Did the same team win, or did the different team win?
Well, Giants won twice against the Patriots. Dallas and Pittsburgh played twice, and Dallas won both times in the 90s. And it was probably Pittsburgh and somebody, maybe Pittsburgh and Dallas again. And no, it was Dallas and Buffalo Bills in the 90s.
Yes.
And they beat the Bills. And so Dallas and Pittsburgh probably in the 70s, and Pittsburgh won both times. So I guess it's been always the same team winning. So that's maybe good
Right.
history.
Yeah.
That has no relation to the current matchup. But
Not at all. Historically, though, it looks like
and the
it
Bengals,
favors the team that won the first
and
time.
the Bengals 49ers met within a few years of each other too. Maybe it wasn't quite 5 years, it was 6 or 7 years.
Yeah.
But the 49ers won both of those games. So that's good to know. So I guess this guarantees Chiefs victory. Should we wrap up our discussion, or do you want to I don't think it guarantees anything, but do you want to talk about, should we talk about what happened last week then?
Yes.
Want to segue ourselves into
absolutely
the rich pageantry that is the Pro Bowl games, and especially our betting, which didn't quite turn out maybe the way we thought it was, because the competition was organized slightly differently from what it was last year, and maybe slightly differently from how it seemed like it was advertised.
Yes.
I don't know if we
there
want
were some quirks from what they said versus how it played out.
Do we want to do a complete rundown, or do we just want to go over our betting results?
Let's just go through the betting results. I think if we can make mention of whatever happened if we want to along the way, I guess, right?
Yeah. Well,
maybe the first question though is, did you spend more time watching the Pro Bowl games as we did talking about the Pro Bowl games in last week's Morning Trek Power Hour?
I think I spent more time talking about it last week than actually watching it. I watched some highlights. I watched some of the kick-tack-toe highlights. I watched some of the snapping competition highlights. I
saw a combined 0 seconds of those things that you just mentioned.
That was about it, I think, that I actually watched the highlights of.
I saw a brief clip of the high stakes player who won the catching the punts, but that's I don't even remember who it was at this point.
He was an AF. Was he an AFC?
It was an AFC player, but I don't remember who it was.
Player. But anyway, the AFC lost the Pro Bowl games this year to the NFC, largely because the NFC built up a big enough lead in the pre-games before the flag football competition, which they only played one game this year, and they just added up the scores of each quarter. And
right.
And I think they did play 3 games last year, if I remember correctly. But
sounds right, but I don't remember.
You won last year the Pro Bowl betting competition 15-13.
That's correct.
I believe I won this year 19-15. So we're tied now.
Pro Bowl
games. I don't know if we do. What do we want to talk about? Do you want to?
I think maybe the precision passing thing is like at least interesting. I think because we picked our quarterbacks as like a snake draft, and they played out almost exactly as we picked them.
Almost, yes.
Which I thought was kind of funny, at least anyway.
Yeah, you had the first pick, and one of your picks was first. It was not your first pick that was first. It was.
I picked first and fourth, and my two guys finished first and fourth. They were flipped,
reversed. Baker Mayfield won the precision passing. That was surprising that Baker Mayfield. I don't think Mayfield is known as being a precise passer, but maybe he that's what his game is. He kind of needs to be for his size and his skill set. He's got a decent arm, but it's not great. Like compared to, it's no Josh Allen or Mahomes kind of cannon. CJ Stroud was second. He was my first pick. second pick overall, and Gardner Minshew was third. He was my second pick. So most of our points that were combined came from the precision passing, I think.
Right.
And I came out on top 11-10 in that, and then that led me to the 19-15 victory later on. So
That was maybe the most interesting. I think the rest of it was just sort of random. We
we
didn't
picked
really have any
AFC or
control
NFC.
over any of it, so it's not like we really had a rooting odd or
No,
uh, you know, a stake in it or even like an interest in it, honestly. So
and
we could have
Vegas.
just flipped coins as to who got what, and I think the only one that I thought that I was like, actually aiming for picking at least anyway was the snapping contest because the NFC had Jason Kelsey, and I was like, well, that seems to make sense. He's supposed to be one of the best centers ever,
Yeah, he didn't
and then he didn't
seem to
win.
score any
They did
points.
win. Yeah.
The NFC did win. NFC won the snapshot, didn't they?
Yes.
And I don't remember seeing Kelsey. I remember seeing some highlights from Jason Kelsey, but it seemed like none of his snaps went through the targets that were
No,
set
no, I
up.
didn't see a second of it.
It must have been the long snapper carrying that team.
Maybe.
Um,
Yes.
you would think though maybe the long snapper would be better at long distance directional snapping than the center who only, at most it's shotgun. Especially for the Eagles, Hurts is under center probably more, almost as much or more than any NFL quarterback because they run so many of those tush pushes, which requires the quarterback to be under center. So
Yeah.
he's not really snapping it anywhere. He's just putting the ball between his legs and somebody else is taking it
Yes.
from him. So, um, but those were the Pro Bowl games. The NFC won the real Pro Bowl games. I think the AFC won the actual the flag football game itself, but
That's correct.
we're too far behind to the NFC to catch up because they didn't get as many points in the games section of it. But do you like? So let me say, do you like the new Pro Bowl format, or do you wish they would go back to like a exhibition football game?
I would say that it's had no effect on me whatsoever because I didn't watch either of them.
What if it was the week after the Super Bowl and maybe Mahomes and Purdy and players like that showed up? Would you have more interest in if the Super Bowl, even the teams that won the Super Bowl would often skip the Pro Bowl after?
Right.
Um,
But they used to entice players to go to it by having the Pro Bowl be in Hawaii. So it
yeah,
seems like a vacation. So people would maybe just opt to go to Hawaii and then stay around for another couple of days at least anyway, and have a
yeah.
little time off. But now it's just in Orlando this year.
Orlando. It was in Orlando this year. Yeah, it was
Yeah.
in Vegas.
So
It was in Vegas the year before.
right. Those aren't as much of like, I mean, you can go to Orlando anytime. It doesn't like it's not as much a thing, a getaway, I guess, anyway. But you should take your kids to Disney or whatever, but
Yeah, I'm
not.
going to Disney World. Yes, Patrick Mahomes has shouted that before at the end of the Super Bowl. And let's hope he does that again. Um, but another perhaps keystone figure of the Kansas City sports scene was re-signed or signed long term by the Royals. That's Bobby Witt Jr. I think how old is Bobby Witt? Is he
3?
23 now? 22, 23?
I think
Uh,
23.
he was signed for 11 years, $288.5 million. Do you think that was a good long-term signing? Does this bode well for the Royals in the future? Maybe being able to get some more, bigger name talent or more expensive players down the road?
I think in some ways it's a good sign. You know, it's the ownership showing a commitment to a player that they want to be like the core of the team for a long time, lock them up for a long time. This has only been his third year, so he still would have been under team control for another at least 3 seasons. Uh,
Yeah,
they didn't need to do it, but I think the team is maybe concerned that if he has a season like he had last year, that his price is only going to go even higher. so they may as well go ahead and lock him up long term now. It's a little unfortunate that probably, the team isn't in, significant state of repair already, that you'd say like we're going to get 10 years of contender teams with the Royals, but it seems like it's probably still the first 3, maybe 4 years are still going to be rebuilding to some extent. We're figuring out what they have, so it's maybe not as, exciting from the fan perspective, at least, anybody have them locked up that long. It's great that the team is willing to commit, though, to someone. Hopefully, he can become a central figure for the team for a long time.
Yeah.
I think he doesn't get, I think there's like the first opt out is like after 7 seasons. So it's still quite some time in the future. And I think there's still 3 years of option years at the end of the deal. So it can still go to like a 14-year full deal with many extra millions added to that into that contract if the options are picked up.
Yeah, I think it's a good sign. It seems to be like what a lot of teams are doing with their young talent, like with Fernandez Tatis Jr. I think Acuna signed something like that. Rodriguez signed something like that in Seattle. And yeah, it was a I think it was a wise move by the Royals to maybe get him cheaper than they could if they waited, and probably a good move by Witt because just take a lot of money now and have financial security forever. Just in case maybe you get hurt or something bad happens, and you're not something unforeseen happens to you. I think it's the second largest contract in Kansas City sports history, behind only Patrick Mahomes' big deal. And yeah, Bobby Witt Jr. is 23 years old. He was born on Flag Day in the year 2000. So he will be 24 on June 14th.
Nice.
Flag Day.
How much did he eclipse the former Royals' largest contract?
Was that maybe was it a Salvi deal, or was that a Alex Gordon?
I think it may have been the Alex Gordon deal.
He signed for like 80 million, probably, didn't he?
He 80, something like that. Yeah, I think so. Bobby Witt Jr.'s contract is the first $100 million contract, then also the first 200 million, the first 250 million.
So it's probably almost 200 million, maybe more than
I think it's pretty close there. Yeah.
what Gordon, or maybe Salvi had a deal like that too. I
I
can't
don't
remember.
think Sal's was that much. Yeah. Or I don't think it was that long of a deal. So I don't know that he could get that many millions in it. Let's see what Sal's deal was.
Sal signed a 4-year, 82 million deal.
So 200 million less than
Yeah. So I
Bobby
think
Witt is.
yeah. Yeah, so I think his is probably similar to what Gordon's contract was.
Yeah.
Gordon was 4 year, $72 million in 2016. So I guess Salvi is the biggest, 82 million. I remember the Gil Mesh 5-year, $51 million contract was a really big deal about 15 years ago.
Yeah.
Maybe 16, whenever that was. Yeah, probably about 15 years ago now. But yeah, this inflation and salaries have gone quite a bit
So yeah,
higher.
Sal's 4-year 82 was the Royals' largest. Gordon's was next. Oh, they were already under control, so that technically doesn't count, I guess, in the way he wasn't a free agent. Oh, because the category for this is free agent. Yeah, okay, so that doesn't matter. So that's still that Sal's would be the largest. Yeah. Ian Kennedy's 5 years, 70 million. It was the third highest.
Ian Kennedy, I forgot about him.
Yeah.
That was a great deal, wasn't it? The Royals really I guess Kennedy was their closer for a little while. Did Kennedy play out? He didn't play 5 years for the Royals, did he?
He was close. I think they ended up trading him, didn't they? Before, like maybe in his last year.
Yeah, something like that. Ian Kennedy played. Well, he did play all 5 years for the Royals, but they traded him.
In the fifth year.
No, he finished the 5th year. He was just injured, I
Oh,
guess, before the last year, or he was released. He only pitched 14 innings his 5th year
hmm.
in 2020. So that was, I guess that was the COVID year. So
Oh, okay.
he still didn't play. He played 15 games. So I guess he was the closer still,
Yeah,
but
so he's granted free
or
agency at
reliever
the end
then.
of 2020. So,
Mhm.
so no, he played out the contract.
Yeah, he had no saves in 2020. He had 30 saves the year before. Um,
Yeah,
but they tried to use him as a starter for a while, and that didn't. He was decent his first year,
he was fine and mediocre.
but
The
yeah,
rest, yeah.
yeah.
Oh well.
Anyway, that's Ian Kennedy,
Yes.
who did lead the league in wins in 2011 with 21. It was 21-4 in 2011. Uh, I don't I
Okay.
didn't I didn't remember that's more wins than Zach Greinke ever had in a season.
No,
But if you are a big into the pitcher wins stat, which I don't think.
only got him fourth in Cy Young voting that year.
Yeah, what happened? Let's see. Let's see. Okay, I'm gonna go. Let's see who. NL Cy Young
Well, he was tied for the lead in
tied with
wins,
Kershaw.
and Kershaw won.
There were a lot of low ERAs that year. Several of them were under 3.
But yeah, so Kennedy had a 2.88 ERA. Kershaw had a 2.28 ERA, which is enough to
Mhm.
make up for that difference, I guess.
That
And the
was the year
strikeout
that
50 more strikeouts probably helped too.
that was the year that Justin Verlander in the AL won both the MVP and the Cy Young. He was 24-5 with a 240 ERA.
Not too bad.
Oh well, back.
No,
So that's the Royals. Do we have any other news about stadium stuff or anything like that, or should we
I
just move
don't
on?
think so. Yeah, I think the ballot initiative is supposedly a go. So we'll find out in the spring if the voters are willing to help support that. The new stadium staying in Jackson County. That's the probably the big thing coming up. I think the Royals are supposed to make an announcement as to what site they're aiming for sometime before the end of February is what they
Hmm.
said now. I don't think they put an official deadline out like they did the first time because they don't want to not meet it again.
Yeah, so I guess it seems like the North Kansas City site is probably
Unless
more,
the ballot measure fails,
and then yeah,
then the site is not going to be in Clay County, North Kansas City, Missouri.
oh well. But I think I'd rather have it. I guess if you're going to have a downtown stadium, put it downtown. But I
Yeah,
kind of like having it really close to our old high school,
I
and
like the idea of it, but
and on the side of, because that is Kansas City's Brooklyn now. It's become cool since we graduated.
that's
And
right. It
it's there.
wasn't so cool when we were there, but
No, it was
now
more.
it's pretty interesting. It's hopping.
It's happened, and that's possibly the new home of EIR, Air Pharmaceuticals.
It's a possibility, but we'll see. I may know before the Royals know, so about their site. So we'll see.
We'll see. We'll also see what happens in the Super Bowl on Sunday. We've given a decent preview so far. We haven't talked about what our betting will be, which also maybe will give us an insight onto as to what we will think will happen in the Super Bowl. Before we get to our betting, do we have any news or notes or anything else about the Super Bowl that we want to
Hmm.
talk about?
Hmm. Yeah, I think maybe the big thing right now is where we think the players stand, like who is going to be available. And I think maybe one of the more exciting things that turned out to be a little bit disappointing anyway was Jarek McKinnon being
Mhm.
designated for return from the IR, but maybe he's looking like he is unlikely to be available.
Yeah, he had that kind of abdominal kind of core surgery type of thing, which usually takes a while to recover from. Joe Tooney has the pec injury, which also usually takes a while to recover from, but it seems like less. As an offensive lineman, you probably need to use your pecs and your arms quite a bit
maybe on every single play.
to stop opposing, giants from trying to murder Patrick Mahomes,
Right.
figuratively. Uh,
Hopefully. Hopefully figuratively.
it's not like that movie, The Last Boy Scout. Did you see that one with Damon? Where the guy had the gun on the baseball field.
Right. Right. It was a running back, wasn't it? That pulls a gun.
I was running back.
Was
I
a
was thinking
defensive player.
it was football. It was football, wasn't it? I was
It
thinking it was
was
baseball.
football, yeah.
It was in
Yeah.
San Francisco, Candlestick Park, I think, or San Francisco
Ah.
or someplace. I don't remember. Was Damon Wayans? Was Damon Wayans with the gun?
Mm.
And Bruce Willis? I think it
I don't
was.
know. I mean, they were both in the movie, right? But
Speaking of dumb movies, I saw a dumb movie this weekend, a couple days ago. I saw The Beekeeper. Have you seen The Beekeeper?
Beekeeper? No.
You know what it's about?
I have no idea.
It seems like something that maybe would have been up your alley maybe 10 years ago. Uh,
Oh.
it's a Jason Statham movie
Oh,
where
okay.
he is a beekeeper who wants to avenge the death of this lady he worked for, who played by Felicia Rashad, Claire Huxtable. Uh,
Yes.
she was cheated out of all her money by some online scam virus people, and
Okay.
he basically kills everybody that he meets involved with those scams and trying to because spoiler alert, Felicia Rashad ends up committing suicide because she lost all her money and lost all and things like that. So
Oh,
so Jason Statham as the beekeeper, he's not only a beekeeper in that he keeps bees, but he was also a part of a secret, ultra secret kind of CIA organization, separate organization called the Beekeepers, who were
oh.
there to quote protect the hive, and that's what his idea was: protect the hive against threats to the hive, such as those guys. And needless to say, the conspiracy went all the way to the top, and Jason Statham
Hmm.
basically killed everybody you can think of on his way to the top. And it was a much better movie than that movie had a right to be. I think
Ah.
it was stupid, but it was pretty fun. So that's my movie pick is The Beekeeper.
Whenever I hear beekeepers, have do you watch Rick and Morty, or have you seen Rick and
I've
Morty?
never really watched Rick and Morty now.
There's a scene about uh beekeepers and the Morty's dad being of beekeeping age. It's just this ridiculous scene. Like it's very stupid anyway, but also funny.
But yeah, if you get a chance to go see The Beekeeper, go see The Beekeeper. It's yeah, it was entertaining.
Right.
Um, but hopefully the Super Bowl will be even more entertaining than The Beekeeper or The Last Boy Scout, which did star Damon Wayans and Bruce Willis.
Yes.
Halle Berry was in it.
It's like 89, maybe
Close, 91.
91.
American buddy action comedy film directed by Tony Scott.
Hmm.
Screenplay by Shane Black. He's famous for his screenplays
Hmm.
for like dumb movies like that. He wrote Lethal Weapon, Last Action Hero, movies like
Hmm.
uh, Iron Man 3. Um, anyway, but yeah, film follows a washed-up private investigator, Bruce Willis, teams up with a scandalized football star, Damon Wayans, to uncover a political conspiracy. So I don't know if I doubt that conspiracy went as far up as the beekeeper conspiracy
Hmm.
went. I don't want to
Did,
give it away, but the
did
beekeepers.
he also write? Same was the same screenwriter for both.
It should have been no. The screenwriter for the beekeeper. Uh, so it was by David Ayer, who also did Suicide Squad and Fury, stuff like that. The screenwriter, I keep looking up, was Kurt Wimmer or Wimmer. I guess it's Wimmer. I think he's American. He wrote the screenwriter for the Point Break, the remake. Total Recall, the remake, the Thomas Crown Affair, the remake, the Expendables. Well, no, wait, Expendables 4, Expendables. He wrote. How would I? Um, he was also the director of the new Children of the Queen. It seems like he does a lot of remakes, this guy, but he wrote a new. He did Law Abiding Citizen. He wrote Street Kings, Sphere, the Michael Crichton project. I remember I saw that in the theater. It wasn't
Book
very
was good. Movie was not so good.
Yeah, I didn't think it was very good either. But The Beekeeper, for what it was really good. It was dumb, but involved a lot of if you like seeing you know, Jason Statham you know, kill and injure people while being unarmed while they are often armed. It's a pretty good movie.
That it is the movie for you.
Yeah. It's not quite the movie. It doesn't have quite the tagline of, my tagline of the movie Taken, which is if you ever wanted to see Liam Neeson kill a bunch of Albanians,
Yes.
Taken's the movie for you.
Yes.
Or if you wanted to see Denzel Washington kill a lot of Mexicans, Man on Fire would have been the movie to see.
Yes.
But yeah, Jeremy Irons is in it for some reason. Oscar winner.
And The Beekeeper?
And The Beekeeper, yeah. He is in some ways sort of one of the chief bad guys.
Yeah.
Minnie Driver's in it. It's a little strange. There's some decent stars.
Really?
Yeah. One of the Redgraves. We won't talk about. I don't want to spoil it by saying who she plays because that's a spoiler.
Did you see this in the theater or?
I saw it in the theater on on Wednesday, the day before this episode is being taped or recorded.
Nice. Cool.
Yeah. Okay, so we'll talk about the Super Bowl. Maybe we should just get through the bets. I think that'll kind of explain what we think the game's going to be like, how we think it's going to turn out. Maybe we think we can even, it'll even sort of allude to our possible thoughts on this final score, what we think is going to happen, things like that. So we have. Do you want to explain for our legions of viewers and listeners our betting strategies for this Super Bowl?
So throughout the season, we've always bet on the spread, the money line, and the over/under in every one of the games this season so far. So those have been traditionally our picks over the course of the year for each game. So we're going to do those again. But because I'd only make 3 bets, $300 total bets, that's not enough, I think. So we wanted to make sure that we're more into this game in particular, at least anyway. So we've added 11 prop bets on yards for passing for each quarterback, rushing for the 2 major running backs, and then receiving yards for we've got a total of, I think, 5 players. So we have 11 prop bets that we're making that we'll each be making our picks on. And then that brings us to $1,400. And then we're each going to have an additional $600 to bet. We're going to make 3 like medium range odd picks, and then 6 additional $50 bets at long range odds. Likely we will miss all of those, but it's possible that we won't. So we're going to have a total of $2,000 each betting on this game.
Yes,
Yeah.
it's a lot of money, and I think right now we are within $3 of each other in our playoff.
That's right.
Winnings. So it's very close. It's all going to come down to the Super Bowl, and it could be. I think we decided to make more bets that are probably less likely to pay off than we have in the other games. So I would say it's more likely than the Super Bowl that we're going to be losing money, but we can
almost a guarantee.
but it's still fun to do, especially if you're not betting real money like we are. So
Right.
we'll see how that turns out. So do you want to go through the conventional bets first and then talk about the props, or do you want to talk about the props then conventional?
Maybe we should leave the conventional bets till the end, I guess.
Ooh, that'll
Yeah,
be
then we're not giving away how we think the final will go until the end.
yeah. So you want to talk about we'll talk about the props then for the individual players, and then we'll do the lines and things like that. Okay.
Sounds
Uh,
good.
yeah, we're always on the cutting edge here, and leaving our audience in suspense just so they will listen to even more of our
Yeah,
blathering.
you need to listen to the whole content.
Yes, every listener I'm sure listens to all 1.5 to 2 hours of working power. It's become a much longer show than sometimes. Although I think we're probably not going to get to the 2 hour mark. I think in this episode, at least that's
Mostly
my.
because we abbreviated our Pro Bowl recap
We
by
did.
so that's for everyone's sake, including ourselves.
Yeah, we didn't need the lengthy Pro Bowl recap.
No, we don't care. Why should anyone else?
All right, okay, so let's start out then with quarterback passing yards. So right now, Brock Purdy, the San Francisco 49ers quarterback, is the you can bet on Purdy as throwing for more than 246 and a half yards or fewer than 246 and a half yards, so over or under. And Mahomes is 262 and a half over under. So Dr. Scaffold, we'll have you go first for Mr. Purdy. Do you think Purdy will go over 246 and a half or under? And
I
perhaps why?
I think in the last game in the AFC and NFC championship games we also picked prop bets in the same kind of categories, and the lines were exceptionally close to what the actual outcome was. I think it's going to be like that again, where they're going to be these numbers are going to be very close, and so it may be like coin flips as to whether or not it's over or under. Maybe just like spotting yards, even the refs may have more of a say in the players get over under just as where the balls get spotted. Uh,
Or sometimes just the way it's measured by
yeah,
the scorekeeper. Sometimes they'll say, well, this is a 48-yard field goal, or this is a 47-yard field goal, depending on where it is. So this is a 1 yard gain or a 2 yard gain, uh,
well,
just depending on even how it's spotted,
rounding
just how it's
rounding
kind of
errors.
judged. Yeah.
Yeah. I think I'm gonna take. I think it's gonna be close to the 246 and a half. I think I'm gonna go slightly under for Purdy.
Yeah, that's a close one for me too, because I think the Chiefs are going to want Purdy to throw the ball,
Hmm.
because I think they're going to want to limit McCaffrey and they're going to want to limit the run. So they're going to say, let's throw, have San Francisco throw the ball as much as possible. I think San Francisco is going to want to run the ball more, but I think maybe the Chiefs will say, why don't you throw the ball, because our secondary is maybe the strength of our defense, especially with the defensive line having some issues with injuries. The secondary with Sneed and McDuffie and Justin Reed and this, all of those guys, Williams and Watson yeah, I think they're going to want Purdy to pass, and I think maybe he will get just over 246 and a half, simply because they're going to want him to throw the ball. And
Hmm.
um, Lamar Jackson went, I think, for 270 or something like that for the
280
Ravens
maybe
last
somewhere in there.
last
Yeah.
last week. So maybe Purdy will be just a little bit over. It might be more garbage time yards too that he'll have to have if the Chiefs are
270,
ahead.
272 for Lamar Jackson.
Yeah, so I'm going to say Purdy over 246 and a half. Also, I want to be different from you on that one, so I'll just go with the over when you would.
Yeah.
And for Mahomes, I guess I'll do Mahomes. Last Super Bowl, Mahomes was under. I think he had maybe it was around 200 yards passing, but that was because the Chiefs never had the ball. I think the Chiefs will have the ball
Mm.
more. Um, I think the Chiefs. I think the Chiefs though maybe will run the ball quite a bit because I think San Francisco's offense is not. I mean, defense is not necessarily great against the run, but I also don't think their secondary is as strong as the Chiefs. So the Chiefs might try to throw the ball. Unfortunately, it seems like Rashee Rice might be a little bit banged up according to the recent injury reports. But Kelsey is there, and Mahomes is thrown for more. His average is more than 262 yards
Mm.
in this season, even though it's been a down year for him. So it's a close one too. I'm gonna go over on both. Rather than going over on one and under on one. That means I'm going to miss both of them. I think if I go over on both or under on both, I think I will likely get one of them right.
One of them will be so. Yeah, so Mahomes went for 241 last week against Baltimore, or 2 weeks ago against Baltimore.
He would have been over had that Rashee Rice holding a penalty not been called.
Right.
So yeah.
Correct. Yes. And yeah, I think that the quality of defense is maybe a little bit weaker for San Francisco than Baltimore was playing, at least the lead up to the game. But I still think Mahomes probably is going to be. I think there's going to be more running. It seemed like in the last couple of games they have pushed more towards like the long sustained drives, which is the thing they didn't really do uh, in many of the last several years. So it seems like that's how they were successful early on in the Baltimore game 2 weeks ago. I think maybe we'll see more of that in this game also. I think Mahomes may be just short of the 262. Doesn't mean that he's going to have a bad game. It's just I think maybe yardage will be at somewhat of a premium. I think I'm going to take the under on both then for him.
Okay.
Yeah, so the opposite of you. So chances are we will each get one of these.
Over under. Our next ones will be rushing yards, where we each have possibilities of two rushers for each team, the quarterback and also the lead running back. So we have Christian McCaffrey, who is maybe the most dynamic back in football right now. He is at 89.5 for his over under rushing. And then we have Brock Purdy himself, the quarterback, at 12.5 over under. He sometimes scrambles, sometimes gets a few extra yards here and there. He is not as much of a statue as Jared Goff, but he's probably also not quite as much of a scrambler as Patrick Mahomes is. What do you like with McCaffrey, 89.5? I'll start with Purdy. I'll go first with Purdy, but you go first with McCaffrey.
Okay. I think the Chiefs' run defense is probably the most suspect part of the Chiefs' defensive aspect. They have been prone to give up decent amounts of yards. Let's see, what was it last week? Lamar Jackson ended up with 54 as the quarterback. 89 though, 89.5 is pretty high. I don't know they've really given up a 100-yard rusher very often this season, especially late in the year. But I think San Francisco's going to be rushing a lot early. I think he may get quite a ways there in the first half. I think it may be enough to trip that 89.5. I think I'm going to take the over for McCaffrey.
I think he might get a decent number of McCaffrey as well, but I think maybe McCaffrey's going to be doing most of his damage out of the backfield receiving the ball, because I think the Chiefs are going to try to shut down the run as much as they can. And so I'm going to go with McCaffrey under 89.5. I think the Chiefs want Purdy to throw because he might throw some interceptions, and possibly as well, maybe the 49ers will be behind and be forced to throw the ball, maybe a little bit like what the Ravens were. So that's my hope anyway. So maybe this is wishful thinking, but I think since I like Purdy with the over on passing, I'm going to go McCaffrey under on rushing. And for Brock Purdy, 12.5 yards. I'm going to put him over on 12. No, actually, I'm going to stay under. I'm going to stay under on both. I'm going to do my strategy of staying the same on each one rather than going differently. Just see if that works for me. At least getting one right and not losing everything. So I'm going to put Purdy under 12.5, McCaffrey under 89.5. I actually kind of like Purdy over, but I kind of like my strategy better, so I'm gonna go. I because if I went with Purdy over, I'd want to go McCaffrey over as well, just to do that, and I'd rather have McCaffrey under and Purdy under. So this is mainly just hedging my bets. I'm gonna say Purdy
Yes.
under 12.5. I have no real idea. I think Purdy's not as he can scramble, but I think he's gonna be um more. I think he's more of a pocket passer than
Mhm.
Mahomes is.
Well, in college, he was more than willing to run and take hits. Uh, since he's moved to the pros, he's really not taking a lot of hits when he doesn't. He at least doesn't take them when he doesn't have to. So he's not going to be the Josh Allen type and just like run headfirst into every tackle, no matter what the scenario is. Uh, if he takes off, he's likely to slide, which is going to cut his yardage back a little bit from what he would have gotten if he goes head first. Uh, but I was hoping you were going to say over so that I could go completely opposite that and take the under. But since you did take the under, I think I am going to take the over and say that he has at least one run that gets him enough yards that trips the over. Even though I don't think he will, but I'm going to say that to be opposite you. I don't think he's run very much this season. I think 15 yards or 12 and a half yards
It's on the high side,
would be
but I
rare, I
think
think, this
I
season.
think it is um, influenced a bit by his 48 yards rushing against Detroit. So in the Green Bay game, he had 14, but in the one, two, three, four, five, six, the last six regular season games, he was under 12 and a half. He had 14 against Tampa Bay, then zero. He was over 12 and a half four times in the regular season out of 17 games. So that's
No, not great odds.
so if you just
So
follow that
it's a
under
bit of a long shot. I think you've chosen wisely here, but that doesn't mean he won't have 120-yard run.
in the
Which would
play,
be
yeah, in the playoffs
unbelievable game. Yeah,
he's been over every time. So
yeah.
it's hard to say.
How about Chiefs rushing yards?
Yes. So we have Isaiah Pacheco and Patrick Mahomes. We're gonna look at those two rushers. Pacheco, the running back, he is his over under has been set at 67.5 yards. Patrick Mahomes' is over under has been set at 26.5 yards. So would you like to do the honors? Go first on Pacheco, and I'll go first on Mahomes, like we've been.
Last week, 2 weeks ago, Pacheco's line was set at 66 and a half, and he hit 68. So he's right around this number of the 67 and a half in the most recent experience, at least. Uh, I think the Chiefs are going to be rushing quite a bit. Uh, and I don't know that they don't have that extra running back to come in on third downs. I think McKinnon probably will not be available, which will mean Pacheco will be on the field just a little bit more, which would be similar to what he was in the AFC Championship game. I think he may be, again, just barely over the 67 and a half. I think I will take the over.
Okay. Um, yeah, that's a tough one for me too. I'm going to go
We didn't
under.
have to be opposite. You can
I know we don't have to be
pick one.
opposite. I'm gonna go under on simply because I went over on Mahomes's passing. I think I'm gonna go under on Pacheco's rushing, uh 67.5. I don't think he's going to. Um, I don't know. He's going to be close. I think he also might do a little bit more of his uh get a little bit more of his production from the backfield. He's been used more out of the backfield lately, and I think with
Mm.
Cannon out and I think
And he had 26 or 28 rushing attempts in the last game.
Yeah, he might not get quite as many in this game, but the 49ers don't have a great rush defense.
Yeah.
So that also thinks
You only
maybe.
need a couple of big runs to get up into that 70 area.
I know, and I'm thinking maybe I'll go. I don't, but then I'll be over everything with the Chiefs, and that may be
Yeah.
a little too much. It's so difficult to decide.
And it's probably going to be like right on the dot,
I
as to what it's going to be. So it'll be either 67 or 68. That's probably what it's going to be.
Yes. Um, Pacheco has been over six, so it's 67 and a half. He would have reached the over one, two, three, four, five, six, seven, 8 times in his 19 games this season. So he tends to be under.
Mm.
But that was mostly during the beginning of the season.
When McKinnon was healthy.
Yeah, when McKinnon was healthy. In his last several games, he's been over usually. So I'm gonna switch I'm gonna go over. I'm gonna go over on McKinnon. On Pacheco, I mean, over 67 and a half. I think it might not be take as many rushes to get there. So maybe he'll only be 15 for
70 yards.
70 yards or something like that,
70, 71, something like that.
rather than 23 for 65 or something like that. So yeah, let's go over.
How about Patrick Mahomes, Mike?
46 and a half. And this is one of the things, if you think the Chiefs are going to win, you have to factor in the kneel downs at the end, because Patrick Mahomes likes to, I think last time he played the 49ers, he kneeled down at the end and he lost about 15 yards on those kneel downs because he went way back because they're trying to kill a little bit more time than normal.
Yes.
But he does tend to scramble more in the playoffs than he does in the regular season. Mahomes
Last week only managed 15 yards.
he only ran for 15 yards, but it was against a stouter, I think a stouter Baltimore defense.
Mm-hmm.
Um,
And a few of those times he had a lane to run that he scrambled forever and then ended up, dumping the ball off somewhere rather than making the run himself. Where I think if he took off and ran, he may have gotten, over his over under number last week,
yeah,
which was also 20. What was it last week?
about that.
It was
Yeah.
26. It was exactly 20. The same number, 26 and a half.
Yeah, he's gotten over that about almost half the time in the regular season. Under that, it's a close number. At the beginning of the year, he was consistently over 26 and a half.
Mm.
Um,
That was when he wasn't trusting his receivers.
yeah, I'm going to go. And in the last year's Super Bowl, I believe he was over 26 and a half, mainly on that one
Long scramble, yeah.
that one run. He he had 29 yards on his longest run, but he had some kneel downs at the end, so I don't remember if he ended up over 26 and a half or not. No, they didn't have any kneel downs because it was an incomplete pass at the end. So
Mm.
maybe he did get over. I'm going to go, mainly since I went Pacheco over, I'm going to go Mahomes over. And I think having them all over for the Chiefs passing and rushing, I think that also hedges a little bit. So I'm going to go over with Mahomes 26 and a half. I think that's
Somebody's likely to be over.
Yeah. I said Pacheco over, Mahomes over.
And I think Mahomes tends to look for those running opportunities, especially in playoff games, and he's more than willing to take a hit or two when he knows it's going to get his team a first down. There seems to be less officiating, effects in the game as in the playoffs. It seems like there have been fewer flags thrown in most of the playoff games that I've watched, at least anyway, than there were in the regular season. Uh, so I think Mahomes will also go over the 26 and a half rushing yards. I think he's willing to do what he has to do to get those extra couple of yards, and maybe it'll be enough to get over that 26.5.
Okay. So now we'll go on to the receiving yards. We'll have three props for the 49ers. Deebo Samuel, Brandon Ayuk, George Kittle. They're all in the same general area. Deebo Samuel is over under 58.5 yards. Brandon Ayuk is over under 62.5 yards. And George Kittle over under 49.5 yards receiving. Maybe I'll go first with these. I might since I had Purdy over, I am going to go.
One of these three is likely to go over, right?
Yeah, one of the
It'd
three,
have to be one of them. Almost for sure will be over,
and
unless
yeah,
it's a disaster of a day for San Francisco.
but probably one of them will be under at least two. I would say. I'm gonna go. I think Ayuk is gonna get Sneed,
Right.
so I'm gonna go under for Ayuk, and I'm gonna go over for Samuel and Kittle. So over 58.5 for Deebo, under 62.5 for Ayuk, over 49.5 for Kittle. I'm a little bit on the fence about Kittle, but I think that's what's going to happen.
Yeah, and so yeah, we've got like at least third option. Probably Kittle is likely to get maybe the most looks because he would be the person that's probably the least doesn't have the most difficult defender guarding him, at least anyway. Yeah, I think you're right. With Snead will end up being on Ayuk, and he has been locked down on everybody. But again, doesn't take that many catches to get up around that 60-yard mark. And Samuel, they do a lot of trick plays with. So I think maybe Samuel will be more rushing yards necessarily, maybe taking away from some of his receiving options, at least anyway. So I think maybe I'll take the under on Samuel. I think maybe even if Snead's guarding Ayuk, maybe he still ends up with more than 62.5. It's not that many though. So I think maybe I'll go under Samuel, over Ayuk, but then over on Kittle. I think is what I'm gonna end up going with.
Okay, so you're doing two overs and an under, just like I did. Let's move on then to Kelsey and Pacheco, the two receiving threats that were listed on FanDuel for the Chiefs. Kelsey is over under 72.5. Pacheco is over under 16.5. The linebackers for the 49ers are pretty good. Drake Kinlaw and Fred Warner, especially. So they might be tough on Kelsey, but Kelsey is the number one target. I think maybe with Rashee Rice possibly being a little bit banged up, his ankles plural on the injury report this week. Maybe he won't get his as much. So, but I think it might be down to Kelsey. Kelsey 72.5, Pacheco 16.5. What do you think on these? You go first on the Chiefs. I went first on the 49ers.
Sure. Oh, yeah, Kelsey's if he has a big first half, he could get over that in the first half. Most recently, he's been having like big first halves and then not so much activity in the second half. Like this, they'll probably go to him right away in the first half and probably get him a catch or two, probably really early. That's what I would guess the Chiefs' game plan is going to have. But I think I'm going to say Kelsey may go under, and this may be a hedge versus what I want. So if he goes over, I'm not going to be upset at all, even a little bit. It's great. I want him to have 200 yards receiving, but I'm going to maybe bet against that just so I'm not over expecting.
Yeah.
But I think Pacheco will be an outlet though for maybe check down type plays. 16.5 yards is not very many. Maybe only one catch is necessary to get to that. So I think I'm going to go under Kelsey, over Pacheco.
Okay. I'm also going to go over Pacheco. I think 16 and a half. I think he's going to need. I think he's going to need to catch the ball out of the backfield more. Maybe the defensive line, even though they're maybe not quite as strong as they were 4 years ago with the 49ers, I think will still force a lot of outlet passes, like you had said, to backs, maybe to Edwards-Helaire and Pacheco. But I think Pacheco's going to be in there most of the time, so probably Pacheco will get maybe 3 or 4 catches. Maybe I think he can get up to that many yards. And I'm going to go over. Also, maybe as part of my general strategy, I'm going to go over on Kelce as well. He was well over in Baltimore, like you said, though he didn't have a great second half, but maybe the Chiefs haven't been a great second half team a lot in this year compared to last. Although towards the end of the season, regular season, they started doing better in the second half than they did previously. So I'm going to say Kelce over. I think he's also saved himself for the playoffs. I think he likes the spotlight. I think he wants the ball. The weather's going to be nice. I think the Chiefs play pretty well when they play in Las Vegas at their new stadium. So I think Kelce's going to get the ball quite a bit. And the 49ers play a lot of zone defense, and Kelce's really good at finding soft spots in the zone. So I think I'm going to go Kelce over as well. So for reasons of hedging and just, I'm talking myself into it, I'm going to go over on both Kelce and Pacheco. And those are our shared props. Do you want to go through, maybe run through these somewhat quickly?
Absolutely. You want to alternate them, or how do you want to do these? Like, so we've sort of made these picks, the prop bets we've just gone through on the fly. We've actually decided what we're going to make our other picks already, so we don't have to think about these along the way here. We already have them written down essentially, right?
Okay. Why
right?
don't
so,
yeah, we each have 3 $100 prop bets, and then we have 6 $50 prop bets. So why don't we why don't we just alternate?
Sure.
But we'll be fairly concise.
Yes.
I'll go first. My first bet, my alternate bet. So these $100 bets we made on anything that was below a plus 200 or below. So you bet $100, you could win $200 or fewer dollars if it was
negative odds or positive
negative
odds.
odds or positive odds. Yeah. So my first $100 bet was the first field goal kicked by any team would be over 38.5 yards. That's plus 112. I just think probably longer field goals maybe are more likely in the Super Bowl than shorter ones, because I think teams will probably go for it more if they're closer in. So plus 112 is over 38.5. So, and I also wanted positive odds on that one. So since my other ones are going to be negative odds, so I decided to do plus 112 on field goals over 38.5.
And there is a trove of picks to choose from in the prop bet categories. It's like hundreds and hundreds of different prop bets that can be made. Anything from like the length of the national anthem to like who's going to win the coin toss. Insane number of options here. Truly into the degenerate gambler choices here as to how deep you can go into the prop bet categories. My first pick, though, is going to be the total sacks by the Chiefs defense of over 2.5 at plus 106.
Okay, so so that means that I think it has to be over, even though individual players or under, even though individual players can get half sacks. I think everybody it has to be a full sack.
Right.
I don't think 3 players can share half a sack. They don't have thirds of a sack. But
yeah, so it'd have to be 3 sacks at least anyway. I think three, the quarterback has to go be tackled 3 different times, I believe.
Yeah. I think that's a possibility. The
In the
Chiefs are pretty good sacking team. You think Purdy might have to pass the ball a lot if the Chiefs are playing against the run more. So yeah, I think that's possible. Similarly, I just kind of thought the way the game would turn out. There was a bet on how long the combined touchdowns were in terms of yardage. So it was over or under 73.5 yards. So every touchdown, it's a 5-yard touchdown would be 5. If it's a 80-yard touchdown, 5 plus 80 would be 85, and then it would hit over. But most touchdowns, unless there's really, really big plays, the Chiefs don't give up a lot of big plays, and they also don't haven't had quite as many big plays this year as sometimes. So I think most of the touchdowns are going to be short. Maybe the drives are going to be more methodical. So I'm going to go under 73.5 for the combined touchdown yardage.
Yeah, so if there's like an opening kickoff return for a touchdown, you've lost the bet. Like in the first 10 seconds of the game, it's possible, but
Yeah,
that's unlikely.
Or if like Tony had last year returned that punt for a touchdown, that definitely would have tripped. Or I guess if there's a long punt, long fumble return or interception return, I guess that would also do it too. So, but maybe but anyway, that's what I'm going with, under 73.5.
I have a relatively simple bet that at some point in the game that any punt results in a touchback at plus 134.
Ooh, that's not bad.
That seems relatively likely. I don't know why it's positive odds, honestly. So
I wonder how many touchbacks there are. Yeah, that's interesting. Seems like there's always a touchback or two.
yeah, well, and especially recently, the Chiefs have had several where they've been down around the goal line and the ball's rolled into the end zone and without being able to down it. But
yeah. Well, they had a good pin. They pinned in the Ravens really close to one time, but then they also had a touchback earlier, and the Chiefs but maybe there won't be as many punts near the other team's end zone in the Super Bowl. Maybe they'll go for it more. Who knows?
They may be more likely to go for fourth down attempts, even maybe on their own side of the field at times.
Similarly, like that, I wanted to do something that I thought maybe seems like it happens a lot, and that's Travis Kelce scoring a touchdown. He's scoring a touchdown in the playoffs, especially. Kelce scores a lot. Not in the Super Bowl, maybe quite as much, but he caught one last year's Super Bowl. He also caught one in the Chiefs' victory over the 49ers 4 years ago. So maybe he'll catch one again. Travis Kelce, anytime touchdown, minus 105. Those are my three mid-range or kind of low odds to mid-range odds bets. How about your third, Dr. Scaff?
My third is about about turnovers. I'm gonna guess that at some point in the game that there is a fumble lost, and I'm actually gonna make the bet that there will be a fumble lost in the first half. That is at a plus 148.
So that's by either team in the first half.
Doesn't matter who does it.
Plus 148.
Fumble loss in the first half.
How they even calculate these odds, and maybe they just play maybe they just see how many fumbles in general have been in the first half and lost, and they have computers and stuff that have gone through that sort of stuff. But we've gone okay. So those are our three $100 bets, prop bets that were on our own. Now we'll move on to the $650 bets. Do you want to alternate again like we did?
Let's do it. And these are all odds that were longer than plus 200.
Yes.
Up to anything. So
up to anything. Yes, I think
at least one of us is going to have a very, very long shot flyer that would, seal whatever kind of competition we have. Usually it's you. That's done the very long shot odds, and in our past couple of.
But I think maybe this week might be a little different. We'll see. My first $50 bet was an alternate spread, so you could tease the line up or down, whichever way you wanted. I teased it 9 points, I guess. I went down to Chiefs minus 6.5. And that is plus 255, Chiefs minus 6.5. So I think again, this kind of signals what I think is going to happen in the game. Maybe it's more what I want to happen in the game, but I think the Chiefs might win by a touchdown. So if they win by 7, that's plus, better than plus 6, minus 6.5. So that would be plus 255 on $50. So that would also break me even for all 6 of those bets. So I'm kind of looking to do that. Bets that are a little bit like that if I get one right, I can maybe avoid losing on those $50 bets, and maybe that will help me in my competition with you, Dr. Scaff.
And I believe in last year's Super Bowl, we did not get any of these long shot odds, correct? Which is probably what we should expect. Just be pleasantly surprised if any of them do pay off.
Yeah.
Uh, my first pick in our long shot odds, uh, I found one prop bet that was both teams successfully convert fourth down attempts at plus 290. So I think it's likely that in the Super Bowl, teams are going to be more likely to go for it on fourth downs. I think each team will successfully convert a fourth down.
Okay. Interesting. I think that could be. Who knows? We'll find out. Similarly, I did one that I have maybe I'm not really thinking it will happen, but maybe it will, and I want to take advantage of it. And that is the first touchdown scored by the Chiefs will be a rushing touchdown. Most of the passing touchdown was the lowest odds. Rushing touchdown was plus 440, and I think perhaps Pacheco might get in for a rushing touchdown early, or maybe Mahomes even on a scramble. So I like
You already bet on Kelsey be having an anytime touchdown, so
yeah.
but you just don't think it's going to be first.
Yeah, I've got yes.
Or he's the recipient of the handoff somehow.
He might be instead of the shovel pass would be the worst. It'd be so close to a handoff, but it wouldn't have. Or it could be maybe a reverse, like to Tony or Hardman or somebody like that.
But you could have both bets pay off on the same play.
It's possible.
If it, happened to be that, the right kind of play.
Yeah. So plus 440 rushing touch. The Chiefs' first touchdown is a rushing touchdown.
My next pick is maybe a tip to what I'm thinking for the over-under in the game. But I am going to bet that any quarter is scoreless is a yes, that any of the four quarters end with neither team scoring at plus 360.
That's always possible.
One quarter where there's no scoring.
I think that will go along with your bet in terms of the over under later.
Probably tip my hand as to what my expectation is for the total points.
Well, my third $50 bet is somewhat similar to your punt bet, your first punt bet, in that I will bet the first punt of the game will be fair caught, and that is plus 225. So it seems like basically there are three possibilities. The punt's going to be returned, not returned, or fair caught.
Does it be a fair catch signal? Does it be a successful fair catch?
I think it has to be a successful fair catch. So right. That's plus 225. So I don't know if that's a great bet or not, but I like a fair catch. The Chiefs tend to fair catch more often than not, and I think probably in the Super Bowl maybe it's more important just to catch the ball rather than try to do something. Even though there have been big returns in the past, there's never been a punt return touchdown. The closest that there has been to one was last year with Tony returning into about the 5-yard line. So I'm going to go fair catch, first punt plus 225.
My third pick is going to be revolving around the first touchdown of the game, similar to what one of your picks was. I have the position, though, to score the first touchdown. I'm going to go with the tight end position. I think, the Chiefs and 49ers both have outstanding tight ends. The Chiefs also have, additional tight ends that are also tend to catch passes around the end zone if they have to. I think it's somewhat likely that this is possible, at least anyway. Odds on that are plus 350.
I think that's a possibility.
Tight end will score the first touchdown.
First touchdown for either team. I think that's a decent. I think there's decent shots, especially for the Chiefs. Somewhat also for the 49ers. You also have Noah Gray in there, like you said. Unfortunately, Kyle Juszczyk, I think, is listed usually as a fullback rather than as a tight end. So if he catches one, maybe it won't count, even if he's lined up as a tight end. I'm not sure I don't know how they'll do that.
It actually said that it's by what the NFL.com designates the player's position to be, not
Ooh, okay.
the position on the field. So it's
So that helps with Kelsey because he might be lined up out wide rather
right.
than as a tight end. So
Right.
speaking of touchdowns, my last $350 bets are all just anytime touchdown related. The biggest,
I've got one of those too, so I'll do mine next.
well, the longest odds of any of those are the Chiefs defense scoring an anytime touchdown, and that is plus 750. So I'm going with that. All of my bets are if they're on a team are Chiefs related, simply because I feel like I know the Chiefs better, and maybe I'm a homer, and which I am definitely. But I think I'm going to pick Chiefs defense plus 750. I'd like to see that happen, and I think it would be fun. I think perhaps an interception return touchdown. That would also kind of mess up my probably over under 73.5 if it's a defensive touchdown. Usually those are going
Tend
to
to
be
be longer.
25 to 30 yards at the
Yeah.
lowest usually. But a lot of the Chiefs ones have been extra long if it's like been if Edwards is involved. So that's plus 750.
If that's the longest odds of your remaining picks, then I am going to be by far the riskiest of the two of us then with our final picks. Because my next pick is also an anytime touchdown for McCole Hardman, though. I think the Chiefs are maybe missing some of their touchdown threats. So maybe Hardman goes under the radar a bit and finds his way to the end zone for a plus $1,500 output.
Ooh, that would be a big redemption story for Hardman, of course, who almost scored the touchdown in Buffalo when he was stretched out, but he lost the fumble. He also fumbled another time in Buffalo that wasn't recovered by or wasn't awarded. The possession was not awarded to the Bills like it was with the touchback fumble. So yeah, McHardman. If Hardman scores a touchdown, I think that the Chiefs are looking pretty good. I think if he is involved and is playing well. And I have another anytime touchdown of Patrick Mahomes himself scoring a touchdown. So that would be a Mahomes rushing touchdown, which is most likely, or perhaps a Philly special type play where Mahomes lines up as wide receiver or is just receiving the ball from Kelsey or there's Tony or somebody, Pacheco, throwing the ball to him.
Or a la Lamar Jackson catching his own pass.
If he could catch his own pass as well. Yeah, or Marcus Mariota who scored a touchdown in his caught pass against the Chiefs in the playoffs. So plus 410. Mahomes doesn't have any rushing touchdowns this year, but in the playoffs he tends to run the ball more, and he did have a rushing touchdown in the first Super Bowl meeting between these two teams. So he might, he could possibly have another one in him.
Yes. My next pick is going to be another defensive category. I have a player to record a sack and cause a fumble on the same play. I think Chris Jones has not been getting to the quarterback quite as often recently. I think maybe this is where he does some damage. Chris Jones to record a sack and cause a fumble on the same play at plus 1,300.
Wow. And so he wouldn't need to recover the fumble, or the Chiefs wouldn't need to recover the fumble. Anybody could.
He just has to cause the fumble. They could recover it themselves. It doesn't have to result in a turnover. It just has to be a sack fumble. Yes.
Okay.
There was an additional category to recover the fumble that you created.
Ooh.
And that, shot the odds way up pretty high.
You didn't want to go for the trifecta.
Yeah, I probably could have, but I chose for a slightly likelier outcome. Although pretty unlikely outcome still.
Well, it's judging by those odds, but something that does happen. It wouldn't be a surprise if something like that did happen. It would also go well with some of your other bets.
Yeah, but not as unlikely as my last pick.
Well, my last pick isn't likely, but it's not unlikely either, and that is a Justin Watson anytime touchdown plus 650. I think if Kelsey, if it's not Kelsey and it's not Rice on the receiving end, since McKinnon is out, I think Justin Watson may be his most trusted wide receiver, especially in the end zone. So I can go Justin Watson plus 650 for a touchdown, especially if they're near the goal line. Sometimes he looks for Watson there if Kelsey's not open. So I'm going to do plus 650 Watson anytime.
He tends to find his way into open spots, and it's just a matter of whether or not he's going to catch it once it's in his vicinity.
Mm-hmm.
And this season he's been much better at pulling in those passes too. Because last year he dropped a lot of like third down and fourth down attempts.
Yeah.
This year he's been much more reliable.
He has.
Yeah.
And he's somebody Mahomes likes to go to, especially when the other receivers have been a little less reliable. So I think that's a decent option. And how about your final $50 bet? And then we'll get into the major picks, the spread, the over-under, and the money line.
Yes. Final pick is ridiculous, Mike. It is absolutely ridiculous. Very long odds on this one. And very, very specific. Trent McDuffie to return an interception for a touchdown, and the Chiefs will win by exactly 6 points, Mike. Plus 50,000.
Plus 50,000. So you would win 25,000 with a $50 bet.
That's
and
right.
That would cover you would win for sure. You could even cover my losses this year with that $25,000 bet.
Absolutely. We could both be positive.
Yeah.
The whole year with that one bet paying off.
Yes. That's
Yes.
optimistic. Win exactly by 6. That would my 6.5 point alternate spread wouldn't quite work that way either. So
and it would purposely tank your pick.
It would come at the cost of, well, I do have a Chiefs anytime defensive touchdown, which would be plus 750. So that's better than my minus 6.5 is only plus 255. So
true.
But it also could mess up my 73.5 over under 73.5, depending on how far the touchdown return was. But I like it. So let's maybe get to the meat and potatoes. Who do you like, Dr. Scaff? The Chiefs? The Chiefs are, it seems like a lot of people are favoring the Chiefs. If you look at the national media, nobody wants to go against Mahomes in a big game. Purdy is inexperienced. The Chiefs have been there before. They've won 2 out of the last 4 Super Bowls. They've been in 3 out of the last 4 Super Bowls they've had. Now, this is the 4th out of 5 Super Bowls to be in, looking for a 3rd victory in those 5. So they've been there before. The 49ers are, accustomed to playoff runs, but not a lot of there's probably not a lot of the same guys who were there 4 years ago. Some of the big names were there 4 years ago, but players like Christian McCaffrey wasn't on the team. Brock Purdy wasn't on the team. Chase Young, Travis Ward was on the other team. He was on the Chiefs. So the teams have the rosters have churned and cycled through quite a bit. So in some ways it's newer for the 49ers than you might think, having them been there only a few years ago. So the Chiefs are 2.5 point underdogs right now. However, because the 49ers were stronger during the regular season, and maybe there's also, like you had said before we went on the air, maybe there's liabilities that the casinos, the sports books have in 49ers futures bets, where before the season started, a lot of people put bets on the 49ers to win it all. And maybe the books want people to bet on the Chiefs to kind of even that risk out. So what do you like, Dr. Scaff? Do you like the Chiefs to win, or do you like the 49ers? Or the Chiefs to cover, or the 49ers to cover? And that you might also
tip the money line,
divulge the money line as well with that.
Yeah,
unless you wanted to hedge.
I don't want to hedge. I can't bet against the Chiefs. I don't normally bet against the Chiefs, so I'm going with the Chiefs and the 2.5 points, which is nice to actually have points in your side, at least anyway. So I think even if they don't win, they could still lose by 2 or fewer points, and still have that bet payoff at least anyway.
Yeah,
happen.
no
Right win. So
Your little monologue there reminded me a little bit of Mitch Holthus's end monologue of the couple games now this season, because you can dislike the Chiefs, you can um, what was it? But you have to deal with the Chiefs. You can doubt the Chiefs, you can dislike the Chiefs, but you have to deal with the Chiefs. And that's what we have to deal with the Chiefs here. It seems like the spread is doubting the Chiefs and maybe even disliking them. But I'm agreeing with you. I'm going to go with the Chiefs on as a +2.5, and like you, I'm going to go with the Chiefs money line outright victory as well, which is +110. So it's not much different really than the spread, but it's instead of -115 right now, it's +110. So we're in agreement there. I figure we might have disagreement on this next one, which is the over under. And I'll go ahead and reveal my over under bet since you did the spread first. The Chiefs beat the 49ers 31-20 4 years ago. And I could see a similar score happening this year, and 31-20 would be 51 points. So that's over 47.5, which is the over under number. And so I'm going to go with the over 47.5. I think lots of points might be scored in Las Vegas. The Chiefs have run up the score on the Raiders in Vegas before. Maybe they can score enough to help push the over. And I hope if it is 31-20, I hope it's not a game like the previous one where it was a nail biter and it seemed like the Chiefs were going to lose much of that game. I'd rather have the Chiefs be ahead and just kind of stay ahead comfortably. I'd like an easy on the heart kind of game, but it's probably not going to happen.
Their more recent games have been scoring points early and then holding on for dear life as the other team makes attempt after attempt to get down to the Chiefs end zone, especially in Baltimore. But I kind of see the game being more of a defensive struggle, and maybe those long kind of possessions taking away from the opportunity to score the big points, at least anyway. I think it's probably going to get pretty close to that 47.5, but I think I'm going to take the under in the game, especially since I bet on the scoreless quarter earlier in our props, at least anyway. So I think we may have a little bit lower scoring game. And the Super Bowl, tends to be a little more broken, I think, in the pacing of the game. All the advertisements that are between periods and sometimes individual plays. It does kind of slow down the momentum, at least, that some teams may get. That doesn't mean it won't be crazy at the same time.
Yeah, like last year's Super Bowl was the 35-32 Chiefs. Was that what it was? 35-32?
I think so. Yeah, very late scoring too.
67, yeah. So there's something like that anyway. And so I think who knows what the game's going to be like. We'll have to wait till Sunday to find out, since they don't play the game on Saturday as of yet, even though that would be Word Trek Power Hour's recommendation.
They haven't taken our advice yet.
No, but maybe they will. I'm sure Roger Goodell is a frequent listener or viewer of this podcast or YouTube channel, but
absolutely,
we don't dive in to see which individual people are listening or viewing, because we are not that tech savvy, and we're also wishing to preserve the privacy of our listeners and viewers. We don't want to be Big Brother looking over their shoulder, knowing who exactly reads or listens to our podcasts. But we do appreciate all of those listeners.
38-35 was the final.
38-35, yeah. So even higher scoring, 38-35. I knew it was a 3-point victory in the 30s. It seems like such a long time ago, but it was just a year ago.
Yes. Mahomes had 44 rushing yards in that game. So,
he did, 44, yeah. A long time ago, 1 year. Speaking of a long time, should we wrap this up, Dr. Scaff?
I think so.
Well, that was our Super Bowl preview. This is the most exciting week of the year for NFL fans, perhaps, at least if their teams are in it, or if they just love the pageantry and the kind of pizzazz and the spectacle of the Super Bowl, and we have perhaps Taylor
And
Swift
all new advertisements and a halftime show.
advertisements, halftime show. Usher, he's probably going to sing "Yeah," I would guess.
See how many guests he's gonna have out there too? Like, what should be
Ludacris,
on that?
maybe.
I didn't see that.
You think Ludacris will be out there?
I would assume so. Lil Jon, will he be out there too
Lil Jon, yeah, yeah.
yeah?
Would Taylor Swift be out there somehow? I don't think so.
No, I don't think so. Yeah.
I think she has been offered to do the halftime show multiple times and has not.
Ah,
But maybe in the future, since she likes likes football now.
now she is a fan, so
Yeah.
no.
Well, anyway, it's been our pleasure. This season talking football, and for our legions, our myriad listeners, and Dr. Scaff and I certainly appreciate it. And we'll wrap it up here, the One Track Power Hour. As always, I am Dr. Michael Werman, Esquire. He is Dr. Andrew Scaff. We are the One Track Power Hour. Please like or subscribe to our YouTube channel, or continue listening to our podcast YouTube channel, whichever delivery service you prefer. And we appreciate your listenership, your viewership, and we'll see you again next week. And until then, we wish you a good day.